Hey y'all, hi. Today I am giving you kind of a first impressions of the highly coveted by me Gucci blush de Beauté. It's a new release from Gucci Beauty. I'm kind of a sucker for Gucci Beauty, and it's one of the brands that I am more inclined to review on my channel than other brands. I don't review everything that launches from Gucci, but when there's something that's like in my wheelhouse and it happens to be Gucci, then I'm more likely to pick up at least one color and just put up a quick review or first impressions, which is what I'm doing today. So I just got one color of the blush, rosy brown. Of course, I wanted to know what the color looked like in person, what the finish was like in person. It's been kind of an uneven and interesting ride, even just over these 24 hours that I've had it, because it just arrived yesterday. So I played with it last night, and then I, went in on it today, applying it to my face and talking you through the experience. It's not totally conclusive, but hopefully this video will give you the thrill of discovering the product with me, which I feel like sometimes when I'm tempted to impulse buy something, it helps just to watch someone go through that process, kind of like satisfies that impulse in me. Then I can take a step back and wait and make sure that it's something I actually do want to buy. So I hope that this video will help in some way, maybe satisfy that urge, maybe remind you that it's just a piece of makeup, give you a little bit of a more realistic sense of what you'd be buying if you bought this thing. If you've never watched one of my videos before, then I hope, of course, that it will still be all of those things. And I also hope that you'll subscribe, because I like talking about makeup, but I talk about it in a realistic way. Makeup can add value to a life, as all beautiful things can, but it's not going to change your life. I'm very interested in the relationship between aesthetics and consumerism. And now let's go ahead and get into the meat of this video. Okay, hi, here we are. It's the moment that you've all been waiting for. I have obviously a little bit of eye makeup on. I have a little bit of base makeup on. I'm testing the RMS foundation, review coming soon, or maybe a review already up on my channel. And I'm going to enhance this in-progress makeup look by doing the most with the Gucci blush. The Gucci Blush de Beauté in shade 5, Rosy Beige. It is darker and less beige and more rosy in person than I expected it to be. I was just expecting something a little bit more pale and a little bit more neutral. Obviously, it's still really pretty. I mean, I'm not mad at it actively, but it's just not old gum, Could be that it'll end up being a really great Gucci blush version of kind of a natural flushy bronzer for me. In fact, the time that I played around with it, the one time, it did end up looking like that. So I'm hoping that's what it'll be long term. But for those of you who, like me, were hoping that this would really be Gucci does old gum, it's not quite that. Also, I don't like these little nubbin, this thing right here, this little clasp right there. It's hard for me to use, it's hard for me to use it to open it. And it might be because I have a weak thumb right now because of repetitive stress injury. So that might actually be the only reason. But I find it pretty easy to open the compact just by holding on to the base and the lid, because they have little ridges around them. And this feels extraneous because of that and less effective than just like opening it up manually instead of manually with the little fake clasp. But more than anything, it's just not aesthetic to me. It looks like little plastic worms on the compact, or reminds me of an awkward Polly Pocket thing. See how it sort of sticks out from the side and isn't cute? I mean, it would be fine if it stuck out from the side and it was cute. I just don't think it's cute. I feel like this is very cute. I mean, it is everything that I dreamed, and it feels very heavy. It's my favorite blush ever in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it's a fail. I just think they could have done better with that little faux clasp thing. It looks like they forgot to make it ornamental. And if they were going to forget to make it ornamental, then I wish that they had just left it off. Okay, let's put it on my face. I have done this already. This isn't the first impressions. It did go well last night. Let's see if I can replicate that for you. I actually I got quite a lot onto the brush, I should say, because I want to do kind of a heavy blush look, because that's what I did last night and I loved it. See how on me it's not beige? That's just not beige. It's like blush color. But, when blushes are blush color in the pan, they look garish on me. So it's nice to have one that's blush color on me. Okay, so there's sort of a light application of it. And I have applied it all over my hairline and around the sides of my face. I've applied it kind of like a bronzer because this is a bronzer color to me, right? This is the color that I turn, this like maybe slightly burnt rose when I get sun. Very reminiscent of the Kevyn Aucoin Neo Bronzer in Sunrise Light, which is my favorite blush. And kind of reminiscent of that as well, it has a little bit of a sheen, although it's hard to tell how much of that might just be my skin coming through. The skincare and primer and foundation had that kind of satin sheen as well. Based on a little swatch, I'd guess that a little bit of it is coming from the blush. Like it's not a chalky matte, but it isn't a very glossy blush full of particles of shine. You can kind of see it there. Now, it's not necessarily the very smoothest blush in the world. And this is only the second time that I've seriously applied it. I'm about to layer more on so you can see what that looks like. What I'll say is that last night when I was applying it, I got this kind of, I don't know, I feel like the only word or words that I can think to use are words that traditionally mean something really bad in makeup, but I'll try to explain myself. I loved how it looked. What I was going to say is I got this kind of uneven flush all along my cheeks that looked really natural. Like it really looked the way that somebody looks when they blush or when they have like wind whipped cheeks, like running around outside. The thing that made me love it instead of thinking, oh, this blush is patchy, is that I felt like I had controlled it. Like I felt like it was localized and that the parts of my cheeks that were really flushed were like the center where I had tapped it more. And then the blush kind of like bloomed out from there in this way that is very natural to the way that it looks when somebody gets sun or really flushes from activity. But it's unfortunately not blowing me out of the water in that way that the Kevyn Aucoin Neo Bronzer does. And it's also very, very finely milled, but it's lighter. I was going to say it's also very, very finely milled, and it also has a little bit of sheen in it on one side. Like this side's kind of sheeny, but it's lighter, right? Even the darkest side is just lighter in color. And I think that that's why I don't have to take such care when I'm using it. And I feel like I can't overdo it with this. I can get a really, really blushy bronzed look, but I never feel like I'm overdoing it. I feel like with this, if I overdo it, I might end up with cheeks that look modeled to the point that it's like unflattering. It looks like badly applied makeup instead of just having that slightly kind of uneven flushed look that looks natural, which in person, at least right now, that's what it looks like. I'm worried that on camera, it's reflecting so much light that it doesn't look as kind of fresh and nice as it does in person. But hopefully you can see what I'm talking about. It's a deeper color than it seems. I might actually be like a little bit too pale for what would be ideal for this blush. I wanted to build it up a little bit more. Here's what I'm going to do actually. I'm going to put a little bit of the Kevyn Aucoin on my cheeks on top of it just to really make sure that it's a very powdered surface, because I'm a little worried that the foundation underneath, which I'm currently testing, was like grabbing on the blush, and that might have been part of what was causing it to look like it was looking. It's a very silky powder. All right, I'm going to try building it up even more. I might regret this. I'm just going to try it. I don't regret it. Okay, it got a little bit intense, but I think I'm okay with it. I'm surprised by how shiny it is. I just feel like it's doing that thing where it's so shiny that it's like making it look patchy on camera, even though it doesn't really look patchy in real life. I don't know. Maybe I just don't want it to be true, but I also am having a hard time because last night when I played around with it and I applied like a fully draped blush look like this, I absolutely loved the way that it looked. But the lighting was really different. I was up in my room. It was dark outside. I just had my vanity lights. And so I wasn't getting this kind of like uneven reflect of the color, which I feel like I'm mostly getting on this side, and it might be because some of the eye makeup was like down here and it mixed with it. But even that all right there just doesn't look good. I just don't know. Let me give you some swatch comparisons on my hand. Nope, it's doing it on camera on my hand too. I was hoping it was something about like the foundation that was on underneath my cheeks, but it's doing it on camera too. So do you see how patchy that looks? And it's because of the way that it's reflecting. You know what I mean? It's like there's something about the quality of the pigment and the reflect and the way that they're interacting that's causing it to look patchy. This right here is the Kevyn Aucoin, and it looks a little more orange, like a little more orangey brown on my hand, but this is really interesting. Those are the two fingers that I was using to build up those swatches, and that really ruddy one, the much pinker one on my middle finger on top, that's the finger that I used to create the swatch for the Gucci blush. And this this brown, that's the finger that I used to create the swatch for the Kevin Aquan. So even though the Kevin Aquan looks so sort of light and diffused there, it's just that the pigments are so finely milled and they disperse so well that you don't get that really actually brown color. But you know, that's the undertone that comes through when I apply it. Whereas the Gucci is just, yeah, it's much, much more of a rose. I was trying to figure out a reason, like to justify the trouble that I was having with it, a reason that it had something to do with, again, the complexion that it was designed for, which might still be true, what I applied underneath it, how much of it I applied, and how much of it I applied might still be true, okay? What I've learned here, though, is that I can't build this blush up like I thought that I could based on last night. It's always going to look like this when I build it up. It's always going to have this kind of patchy reflectivity. I think that the thing that I might still be able to do with it is to use it to create like a really, really light wash of color. And unfortunately, I've already done this, so I can't really test that today, but I'll definitely pin a comment about this because I feel like this is a situation where it's too bad that this is a first impressions. Obviously, I'll talk about it in a future video as well, but it has stymied me a little bit. And so far, it's kind of like a not as perfect as I thought it was going to be. It could always be there's a learning curve. It could be that I find out that when very lightly applied or applied with a bigger brush and blended out more diffusely, I really love it. If I have any more information than I have now when I am posting this video, I'll put it in a pinned comment. Now I'm gonna go wash off my hands, finish my makeup, and then I'll come back and give you my final thoughts and tell you about the smell because I forgot to tell you about that. I just jumped right into applying it. Okay, I'm back. And I applied a little bit of lip color. I applied a little bit of powder, so I could have finished the makeup look all over. And the blush looked amazing in every single other mirror in the house. But here in this mirror, which I have a mirror underneath the camera and I have a little screen that's showing what the camera is recording, I still think it looks bad. It looks bad both in the screen monitor and in the mirror that I have down here. And it's funny because I have beauty lights on me. I have these big soft box lights coming from either side, like a ton of light on my face. And usually that's the most flattering light that you can have on your face because it kind of evens out shadows and crevices in the face, sort of diffuses the look of pitting and scars, marionette lines, and it usually bounces in a really beautiful way off of the glossy or the highlighted high points of my face, like my cheekbones. And in this case, the slight luminescence in the blush to me just isn't handling that well. So I feel like I really need to experiment with the way that this looks applied less intensely, like less of a layered application. And I really need to pay attention to the way that it looks in different lighting conditions. It's hard for me to trust it with it looking not great to me under this light because it's like a fundamental truth of my life that I look my best under this lighting. So if it doesn't look good, if the finish doesn't look good under this lighting, it's just hard to believe that I'm going to be really excited to wear it a lot. What a funny slippery fish, this Gucci blush. Oh, that reminds me, I need to tell you about the smell. It's confusing because I love it. I actually love it. It smells like an updated version of what you imagine when people say like that old-fashioned makeup smell. It really smells like makeup in an old-fashioned way, but it has, I think, a little bit of like an apricot-y or peachy undertone that makes it smell fresh and not abhorrent. Like a powdery, lotiony apricot or peach or cherry or something. And just a little bit fragrant with some sort of old school scent. It smells very everything old is new again. I just love it. Gucci nails it with the aesthetics, and I feel like the scent is part of the aesthetics. Some of the lipsticks, or maybe it's all of the lipsticks. The lipsticks smell like violet candy, freshly, deliciously, indulgently vintage. Packaging and presentation and everything, and I've just turned out to really love that. But I could see somebody not liking the scent, and it is there and it is distinctive. I happen to really like it, and I happen to feel like it's really original and really aligned with what Gucci Beauty is doing across the board. But if you sometimes can't stand a scent or you generally don't like strong scents, then this is, one to maybe encounter in the store before you buy it. I think that's going to be it for today. Clearly, I have to spend some more time with this. Whatever it is that I've learned about this blush in the time since I filmed this, I'll put it in a pinned comment on the day that I post this video. So make sure to check there for updates. And of course, if you want all of the tea, make sure that you're subscribed because I'll come back with an update in like 3 or 4 weeks after I've really lived with this blush and gotten to know everything about it. So check the comments, subscribe, keep an eye out. Thank you for being here. And most importantly, don't forget to take extra good care of yourself so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.